Does anybody have any questions about, yes?
Yeah, so when was this filmed and is there follow-up? Do we know how successful these efforts were?
Yes, so we actually announced to Wabash that they had won at the very beginning of May and went back down immediately, selected the businesses, started filming, so it's kind of been all summer. We most recently wrapped up our shoots at the end of July, early August. And so not enough time has passed to really understand all the impacts of the changes that were made, but we're already getting really great feedback. One of the things that we're really excited about too is we wanted to do this to help Wabash and to help real people who are trying to run real businesses. And one of the great results of that is that just the publicity from being included in the series, we get notes from them probably every day. I'm looking at my team in the back. Like, we get notes from them every day about so-and-so stopped in today and said that we saw you in the commercial, or we've seen this press release about you. And so that's a really great after effect as well. But they've been, especially when it comes to the marketing pieces of it, they've implemented either whether it's email marketing or different social media campaigns, and they found a lot of success from it. So, but that's a great question. We're thinking, do we go back in a certain amount of time and measure some of these things and see what the impact was? I think that'd be an interesting follow-up.
I think, it's like Judy said, that's really, I don't know if that's really the point of the program. It's kind of like Shark Tank. It's really a catalyst, and it's what people do with it. One of the things that we really found in a small town is people tended to have this almost defensive attitude about the fact that they're in a small town. It's like Judy said, nothing good ever happens to people like us. And one of the things that we really try to do is encourage people to believe in themselves, and the fact that they're in a small town allow them to compete with other businesses in other towns and on a global scale. Mm-hmm. And it's really what they do with the information and the money and the infrastructure that we've helped them with.
Yes.
How big a role did technology play in the redevelopment of Harry's? And what did you learn, if anything, from the way that technology?
Yep, so specifically at the time, Harry's did not have a website, so I'm going to use technology in terms of online presence. He didn't have a website, which is not only difficult from a bar perspective, but from a restaurant perspective. If you're not listed in the online directories, if you're not findable online, if you don't have your menu online, it's very hard for you to draw in restaurant traffic from especially outside of the community as well as within. So we thought that was a really important thing to implement for him, and making sure that his marketing was in great shape and that he's findable online. In there's multiple ways that we helped him do that.
I think every business today is a tech business. I'm in the cybersecurity business. People used to say to me, what's your best sector to sell into? And we used to say finance. Today, I don't say that anymore, because every business is a technology business. A retail business, a technology business, manufacturing. And so I think technology is simply a tool that can be applied to different stuff. What's interesting is a guy like Harry, or a lot of people in a small town, the reason they're small is they don't think they have access to the resources of other people. Nobody in that town would have thought they could use somebody like Deluxe to help them. So they would want to do it all on their own. And the challenge is, when you're that small and you're competing against big companies, mm-hmm. you got to be great at it. Mm-hmm. And it's shocking to a lot of these small businesses that they can afford somebody like Deluxe, and that they can provide all those kind of services. And what you saw with him is it wasn't just the website, it was things like coasters. Before we got there, they would have coasters that they found that were on sale from other places. So you go into his restaurant and there'd be a coaster from another restaurant. And you would sit down with him and say that to him, say, the branding is your association on how the consumer touches you, and they just wouldn't make those connections. And they wouldn't think those things are important, or that have access to people like that.
Did that early online presence?
See, that never happened in debate yesterday, where it was this polite, and we actually allowed you to finish the question.
Was there any impact from the technology? I know it's early on.
Yeah, I'm sorry. His was actually the most recent website to launch, and so we were really trying to make sure that the website was up in time for it, since he was one of the first episodes that we were going to launch. So I wish I could share with you results right away, but one of the other things that we did for him is made sure that he was showing up in all of the directories. There's about 20 that restaurants can appear in, and so we've got him set up well, but his is the most recently completed.
I'll tell you one thing that a lot of the small businesses learned, that I also learned, and we see this in Shark Tank. We have a lot of, the big theme for us this year was Kickstarter and Indiegogo. so crowdfunding. And what we see is we see a lot of small businesses that are jumping to Snapchat and Instagram and getting big business that way and kind of leaving email marketing by the wayside. It's almost this indignant attitude about, oh, email, nobody cares about that anymore. But one of the great things that Amanda and her team did was, it is fundamentally cheaper to sell to an existing customer than to find a new customer. And by using that database of customers and emailing to them on a regular basis, you can really increase your revenue at a very, very small cost.
I was wondering, what were some of the top or main challenges you saw throughout the series that these small businesses were facing? And what can other entrepreneurs do to help revitalize the small towns and small businesses?
Yeah, two great questions. I can take that first. So something that we saw in almost all of these businesses was, first of all, they struggled to know their basic numbers. Some couldn't tell us if they were profitable or not even, or what their expenses were for the past year.
It's amazing.
And
But, having said that, Barbara on our show doesn't know any of her numbers. And, look at her. She's pretty successful. So, but
there you go.
It's true. You'd be amazed how little people understood the numbers. To a lot of small businesses, including me when I started, the numbers were like a jigsaw puzzle. I kind of knew what revenue was, I kind of knew expenses, I kind of knew cost of goods, but I couldn't put those pieces together into a picture that made sense. And that's the big thing we saw. Like, Harry, what were your sales in November of last year? Bam, he had that number. What was your gross profit that month? We don't track that. And so we said, well, how come you know your revenue so well, but you don't know any of these other numbers? Do you remember what he said? And he said, when I bought the business from the other guy,
he wasn't tracking it that way.
He didn't track it that way, so I'm just tracking the stuff that he tracked. And we're like, whoa, you got to really know your numbers. But that was pretty consistent. And it's not that people are naive. It's that I think to most of us, accounting and finance is really scary. And I think it's a language that those who know it use against us to make us feel bad, kind of thing. Oh, it's that fancy numbers stuff. Don't ask those questions. But if you don't understand the language of business, which is finance and accounting, someone's going to take advantage of you or you're going to get left behind. And I think the second thing was really marketing. People, if I asked everybody in this room, what does marketing mean to you? I guarantee you we get 30 different answers, and that was the same thing.
Yeah, I think we talk about this a lot, but very, very few small business owners started their business because they couldn't wait to build their website or to design a logo or to figure out what the heck SEO is and how it improves your search ranking when people are looking for your kind of business. But those are really important parts of running a business, and especially growing a business and making sure that it can stay open. And so those were the two things that we saw repeatedly, was that people either didn't know their numbers and maybe didn't understand the impact that good, strong, solid marketing could have. And the other thing that kind of was universal in those two themes were those were two things that all these business owners were trying to figure out for themselves. Because I think small business owners feel like it will be extravagant to spend money on a partner to do some of those things. Like, if I just keep trying, I can figure this out myself. But then we always think about the cost of your time and how much time you're spending trying to figure out how to design your own website, to build your own tool, or maybe you're trying to design a logo, or you're trying to manage your social media, but you're not doing as much as you should. And so that was the other thing that we kind of saw in both of those things. Like, sometimes your time is going to be better spent on the parts that you love about running your business and that you're uniquely suited for than trying to figure out things like marketing or accounting. Maybe those are places where partners can be helpful.
It's that small business mentality, and when you start with nothing, it's very hard in your mind to let that, watching every penny religiously like it's your last penny, it's really hard to let that go to a fault. My company right now is about 275 employees, and before we met Amanda and the folks at Deluxe, and we have an incredible marketing team, we were doing it all. We were doing our own website, we were doing it all, including for our Shark Tank investments. And now we use Deluxe to do that because they're better at it than we are at that size. And it's hard to let go. When you start with nothing and every dollar counts, the idea of giving somebody a percentage of your dollar to do something better than you so you could actually do the things why you started the business, run a bar, sell bridal gowns, those kind of things, is a difficult change to make. But if a small business owner never makes that transition, they're always doomed to be a small business owner, which is fine. But if you want to get bigger, it's hard to make that transition.
Amanda, can you speak a little bit about this whole series? I mean, it's obviously a brilliant marketing vehicle for Deluxe. I mean, how did this come up? Are you modeling it after another similar project? What's the thinking and plan?
Yeah, so 2 years ago when it was our 100th anniversary, we knew we needed to do something disruptive because we really wanted to talk about where Deluxe was headed in the future. You know, we have a historic brand association with our legacy products, which are checks and business forms, which are still really important parts of a lot of the operations for many small businesses. But we've really evolved alongside small businesses and now offer this full marketing suite, and people really don't know us for that. And so this year we felt like, I think we can still show people that we do marketing now, but still do it in a really authentic, engaging way that is genuinely helping people. I mean, yes, you walk away realizing that Deluxe does marketing, but we're not duping anyone. We put our name at the very front of it, right? It's really about helping this town. And marketing, honestly, is a solution for small business. Totally have to, yeah.
I'm just fascinated by this, and I can see I can see in the marketplace other similar projects going on, but this is so big and thorough.
Oh, thank you. That authenticity was what led us from the very beginning. Even last year when we did the documentary series, it was to the degree of we hired documentarians, not an ad agency. We really wanted to tell these stories in a genuine way. So thanks for recognizing that. I appreciate it.
Obviously, that was a success. If you're now doing the second project, so can you tell us a little bit about that and what it did for your business?
Yeah, so last year we don't invest a lot in advertising or brand awareness as a company. We just don't. And so for us, it was more about putting the money into telling these stories and helping the town. And so we rely on social media and earned media and articles being written about it to kind of spread the word, because we want to focus our investment in people and stories. And so last year, we received about 1.7 billion impressions. So about 670 stories were written about the small business revolution, and that was the documentary series, and the 100 stories. And I don't care how great you are at PR, I've got a whole team of people who are great at it. We probably could have gotten like 3 stories written about the fact that we were turning 100, but because we did something that was genuinely helping people and shining a spotlight on individual business owners, they got some notoriety from it too, and it helped those businesses. So it was kind of a win-win-win. So yeah, last year was very good.
It's really so smart.
Oh, thank you.
So I'm interested.
Sorry, I'm not very good at picking who. I would be a terrible teacher.
I'm
I want everyone to ask at once because I don't want to pick a favorite. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
I'm just interested to know, because this is positioned as the small business revolution, and you sort of positioned as a movement about small businesses. Do you think it's more education, so small businesses like the Saloon learn the tools for which to build a business, or is it about bringing the mentality of small businesses into more people's TVs? How do you think about it?
I think sorry.
No, go ahead.
I think the first point of it is that one of the downsides of Shark Tank is that we give people sometimes the impression that if your business isn't going to scale, and if you're not going to become big, well then don't bother. It's not worth it. And the reality is small business starts with the word small. And most people that start a business are doing it to make a living and to survive. And if you can start a business and feed your family and pay your mortgage and create some value, man, that's success in America today. And I think oftentimes we don't celebrate that enough on Shark Tank, because we're all about, how am I going to get this to 100 million? If I give you $100 million, how do I get 200 million or stuff like that? And that's one of the things that the series really does, is celebrates the fact that you are small. Some of these people spending $500 is a major decision. And that is the reality and I forget the stats, but what percentage of small businesses have less than 3 employees? But it's the bulk of them.
Mm-hmm. You had a question up here earlier.
I was going to say, I know you taught the people a lot that we know, but did you learn anything from them? Did you learn anything from them?
Yeah, it's so interesting, because when you go to a small town like that, and Wabash is about 1,000 people?
About 10,000.
About 10,000 people, and it shocked me how cohesive the town was and how much they were all supporting each other. You know, the reason Wabash won and had 180,000 votes was because they came together as a community. And when you go there, it's really incredible. And you know, it's the same thing we see on Shark Tank. The businesses that are successful, I've been doing Shark Tank now for 8 years. And the one thing I've learned over the entire time is that America is still the bastion for hope and opportunity for the world. And I hate when people come on the show and tell us that there's no more opportunity. And the other thing I've learned is there is really no discrimination on our show in terms of success for race, color, gender, height, any of that. We don't care about any of those things. We just care about how much value you add. And when we went to Wabash, we really saw people come together as a community, first to win the contest, and then secondly, to support all these other businesses. It was really inspiring. I mean, it's, you know, you're in the middle of not nowhere, but okay, nowhere. And these people are so excited, and it was such an incredible feeling and very uplifting.
Mm-hmm. I would echo those comments, and I would say there are two things that I really pulled away on top of those. And one was just watching how welcoming and warming a community like that can be. I mean, it just renewed my faith in, like, I think people are just hungry for these kinds of stories right now. This small town Americana community coming together, people having each other's back, feeling safe in a community. I mean, it's just that piece. I didn't realize living in a big city that I'm missing that community aspect. That was really,
and you know, these people don't know us, and it's a very difficult and challenging time in America, and there's a lot of words and a lot of hate and a lot of, you know, language being used as a weapon for other people to get their side across. And the one thing that you really get out of this is the bulk of the people you'll meet in life and in America and in small towns and big towns are nice and want to help you. I mean, that's really the overriding thing you learn. Sure, there's some bad people, but it's not the general human condition.
Yes.
Me?
Yes.
Oh, thank you.
You have been just like you've been.
Good exercise.
Yeah.
So today, the submission process opens for the 2017 edition. Two questions for both of you. Have you checked the website to see how many people have submitted thus far? And is there any particular type of business that you might be looking forward to seeing for the 2017 edition?
Yeah, you know, we're really looking first and foremost for a town, knowing that there are going to be small businesses within it that make it great. And that's part of what we'll look at for the submission process. Would you guys mind looking to see what the latest nomination? I knew you, when I saw you doing this, I knew.
Well, we had 10,000 for the last time. We had 10,000 nominations. There was a town nominated from every state.
Yes, yeah. So we're hoping to surpass 10,000 this year. So things we'll be looking for, definitely like that really great classic small town vibe. We want to see passionate small business owners. We want to already see like an active small business community there, but maybe one that knows that they are kind of on the brink of that next stage and maybe need some help. We want to make sure that they're open to help, right? I mean, that's one of the things I learned too, to your question. Like, they were so open to help. If someone came in and told me all these things I could be doing differently about my job, maybe it's just my personality, I would naturally be a little defensive, and they were open to the feedback. They took it with grace and applied the learnings, and so we want to make sure that the next town has that kind of. And
we want to highly encourage small towns in Hawaii to
we would not mind spending
that
time
would be,
in Hawaii. I mean, it's for the job.
I would not be upset about that, going to Hawaii, no.
Yes, I think we have time for one more. Oh, hi, Deborah. The light there. Now I can see you.
No, sorry.
That's okay.
I have a question. I know it might be the last question. I've been noticing the signals here. But maybe it's for you, and maybe it takes it in a little bit of a different direction. But certainly Deluxe itself is a brand in transition. And it would be interesting to know what this has done for the Deluxe brand in terms of helping make that transition.
Yeah, we're hoping that it's helping that acceleration. You know, it'll be a journey. Again, we're relying on the show being shared and more people seeing it to help change those perceptions. But we certainly, all early indicators from brand awareness tracking and just kind of public perceptions that we track are headed in the right direction. This year we're really going to start connecting things more too. Making sure that when Deluxe is doing direct marketing of its products, that it's taking credit for the great work that it's done through the Small Business Revolution. We've always been very careful to keep them very separate, and we never wanted it to feel commercialized. We never wanted to say, and now click here for your logo. But at some point, a small business will need a logo, and so there is a journey we'll take them on to tie those two things together more this year.
I think it's been so inspiring for me to be involved with you guys. I mean, so I'm a small business guy. I've never had a business for more than this one, 12 years. I've always sold them. And when I first met you, Deluxe had been in business for 100 years. They invented checks. And as a small business guy, you think, if I can just get to this point, I'm on easy street. If I can just get to this point, it's all going to work. And you look at a company that's over 100 years old, going through a rebranding exercise and constantly changing. And it really drove the point home for me that, what I always tell other small businesses is, if you're not willing to change, you're going to die. Because the only certainty in business is constant change. And those who can adapt are the ones that survive. I always say, my grandmother passed away when she was 99 years old. She'd never been on an airplane, any of those things, but man, that woman could adapt to anything. And it's not the strong, it's not the meek, it's not any particular people that are going to survive. It's those that have the ability to change and adapt. And that's the same in business.
Yeah.
Isn't that what they call the shark? Like the shark can always adapt. They always have to, or they have to keep moving to survive.
Sharks always have to keep moving to survive. Yeah. That's why they moved us around in different chairs this year.
All right, so we're getting the signal. Again, I want to thank you guys all so much for coming and spending some time with us this afternoon to watch the episode and to learn more about it. Again, we are reliant on people sharing it, so we're very appreciative when people take interest in it and want to either write articles or talk to people about it. So thank you very much.
Thank you.